This afternoon, my husband casually mentioned that my mom is moving in and instructed me to get all my things out of the room and into the yard before then. I was taken aback, sitting on the couch reading the newspaper, and nearly dropped a plate while doing the dishes in the kitchen. His remark was so unexpected and nonchalant that I was left dumbfounded. Confused, I asked him to clarify. "What do you mean?" He looked at me with a hint of frustration, gripping the newspaper tighter. "Don't you get it? Let me make it simple for you. My mom is moving in. We need the room you're using because she'll need it. So, move your stuff to the yard." I was stunned. He had never mentioned this before, and I wished he had at least discussed it with me beforehand. Still, I didn't argue. I just nodded and said, "Okay, I'll move everything out." "Good," he replied. "Make sure you do it quickly. Now you'll have a chance to learn some housekeeping skills for Mom." I was speechless. I knew he was close to his mother, but this felt like an extreme measure. I must have been too shocked to respond. It was clear he had asked her to move in without prior notice, and the suddenness of it all left me feeling helpless. With a forced smile, I agreed. "Got it, I'll get everything out." As soon as the conversation ended, I pulled out my smartphone and made a call. I wasn't going to let this go unaddressed. My husband looked at me, puzzled. "Who are you calling?" he asked, but I didn't bother explaining. "Hey, I'm back," I heard a voice call out as soon as my husband Tom returned from work. Tom and I had been married for 2 years. We met shortly after I graduated college and started working for an apparel company, and we quickly fell in love and married. "Welcome home," I greeted him, rushing from the living room to the entrance. "How was your day? What about dinner?" It was a routine I followed to avoid upsetting my domineering husband. "I'm starving. Let's eat first," he said, and I hurried to prepare dinner. "Grilled fish tonight. Looks delicious. Let's eat while it's still hot." We had a pleasant dinner and conversation, but things shifted when I brought up a thought I'd been having. I've been thinking about going back to work soon. We don't have kids yet, and our savings are dwindling. Tom's calm demeanor changed instantly. "Why would you want that?" he asked sharply. "I just think it might help if we increase the household budget a little. That way, I wouldn't need to work," I explained. "Are you saying my income isn't enough?" he snapped. "That's not what I meant at all," I defended. "I'm just suggesting that if the budget were slightly better, I wouldn't need to go back to work." Tom responded curtly, "I give you $250 every month. Isn't that enough?" I had always intended to continue working, but the conversation took a turn I hadn't anticipated. Before we got married, I had made it clear to my husband that I wanted to have children. He didn't agree, preferring that I focus on staying home. The monthly allowance he provided was just $250, which was unrealistic even though we lived in a house inherited from my late grandfather with no mortgage. $250 a month for 2 people was barely enough to cover the basics. I couldn't help but blurt out my frustration. "We can't live on that." Instantly, I clamped my hand over my mouth. But the damage was done. He reacted with anger, shouting, "Why can't you make it work? Where is all that money going? My mom said she could manage on that much." His reaction was fueled by a sense of obligation to his mother. After losing his father in a traffic accident during middle school, he had been raised by her, and it seemed he had developed a deep reliance on her opinions. To him, her word was law, and he expected me to follow it as well. I, too, had lost a parent, my father, when I was in high school, and had been raised by a single mother. But I knew that not all of her opinions were correct. I felt my appetite vanish as I said, "I'm going to bed," and watched him storm off to his room, leaving his meal untouched. The loud footsteps in the hallway seemed deliberately forceful. I questioned myself, wondering why I had married this man. Others might say I should leave him, but despite everything, I still loved him. He was usually a decent person, and I wished he would focus on our relationship rather than his mother. I silently hoped that one day he would turn away from his mother's influence and truly connect with me. With a heavy heart, I began cleaning up dinner, clinging to a faint hope. A few months later, an incident occurred that would irreparably damage our relationship. At dinner, he suddenly announced, "My mother is coming over next Saturday. Make sure you clean up properly." I was caught off guard and replied, "I haven't seen your mother in a while, so I'm a bit nervous." "She's perfect, so just remember that," he said dismissively. I disliked my mother-in-law, and his casual tone only added to my frustration. I hadn't seen her since our wedding, and her condescending behavior and the dissatisfaction she expressed towards me were unforgettable. I recalled her words when I first visited their home for the wedding introduction. So, you're the one engaged to my son? You seem quite dull. Are you sure you're suitable to marry him? Back then, I managed to laugh it off. But hearing such a comment directly from her, someone I had just met, left a lasting scar on my heart. I never imagined that such a mother-in-law would come to my house. My husband seemed excited about her visit, cheerfully enjoying dinner while I was overcome with anxiety. My hands were trembling, and I nearly dropped my chopsticks. I was terrified of meeting her, but refusing to meet her would only displease my husband. He soon noticed my unease. Hey, you okay? You look pale. Are you feeling sick? I considered saying no, to refuse the meeting with my mother-in-law, but the words that came out were not what I felt. No, I'm fine really. I'm looking forward to her visit, I lied, not wanting to upset him. He seemed relieved. You're excited too, right? Yeah, I'm excited, I replied, though inside, I was battling my frustration at my own weakness. I forced a smile to avoid his anger and finished dinner. Thanks for the meal. I'm going to take a bath and sleep, I said. Okay, good night. I didn't want to think about the impending visit and went to bed early. Yet when I woke up the next morning, I still felt unsettled. As Saturday approached, my health seemed to deteriorate. I never anticipated that meeting her would affect me so deeply. When the day finally arrived, my husband went to pick up his mother, and I waited nervously at home, having cleaned the house meticulously. The doorbell rang in the quiet room, and I jumped up. She's here, I thought, hurrying to the door. As I opened it, I was greeted with, Yasmin, it's been a while. Yes, it has been a while, I managed to reply. But as soon as I faced my mother-in-law, my heart began to pound, and I could feel a tightness in my chest. I was frozen, standing like a statue, until my husband, who had followed behind, prompted me. What are you doing, Yasmin? If you stand there, my mother can't get in. Please let her in. Oh, sorry, I stammered, snapping back to reality. Please come in. I finally led my mother-in-law inside, my heart racing with anxiety about what she might say. The hallway leading to the living room, though short, felt endless. To my surprise, she didn't make any harsh comments as she followed me into the living room. It was cleaner than I had expected, and I thought, maybe I'll avoid any harsh remarks after all. The conversation that followed was more subdued than I anticipated. About 3 hours into her visit, the topic of my husband came up. You know, she said, I was surprised you asked Tom to give you more for living expenses. I didn't ask for more, I corrected. I just mentioned that I needed a bit extra. There's a difference. Her eyes shifted towards Tom for confirmation. That's not what Tom told me, she said, clearly seeking his support. We had indeed discussed the issue a few months ago, but I had never demanded anything. Really, Mom, it's terrible, Tom interjected. I've been giving her money every month. I can't believe this. His words hit me like a shockwave. Was he trying to curry favor with his mother? Tom says the same, she continued. You don't even have a mortgage. How much are you getting for living expenses? $250 a month, I said. Even you should understand that's not enough. You've managed a household budget and raised children yourself. You know how difficult it is to live on such a small amount. I was confident she would understand, but her reaction was unexpected. $250? You're getting that much and still asking for more? Where is all the money going? Food and daily necessities, I explained. I don't waste money. The utility bills alone are more than $250, so I've been using my savings. But like Tom, my mother-in-law wasn't sympathetic. You could manage with a bit more savings. You need to be more resourceful. Ideally, I'd be there to guide you on the right way. The suggestion was clear. Living with her was out of the question. I responded with a forced smile. Maybe you're right. I'll try to be more resourceful. Tom looked oddly pleased. Mom's saying this, so why not live together? She can teach you how to manage finances. No way, I thought. I can't handle any more stress. I'm already walking on eggshells around Tom, and adding my mother-in-law into the mix would be unbearable. I'd rather not. I clearly expressed my refusal to my husband, but his annoyance was evident. What, you're rejecting my suggestion? That's exactly what's wrong with you. Mom's just trying to be kind. Let's drop this, Mom, he said, turning to her. Talking to her is pointless. Let's go. He stood up, and together with my mother-in-law, they left the living room. Once they were gone, I felt drained and overwhelmed. My husband, A stable salaried worker earning around $2,000 a month shouldn't find a slight increase in living expenses problematic. Why was he so reluctant? There had to be a reason. Feeling unwell, I decided to take a nap. When I awoke, it was already deep into the night. What time is it? I wondered, seeing that it was past midnight. I must have slept for hours. My husband had returned and was already asleep in the bedroom, perhaps not waking me out of consideration. My body ached from sleeping on the couch, and I realized it was pointless to do anything at this hour. I crawled into bed and closed my eyes again. The next morning, my husband's announcement was unbelievable. "Mom's moving in this afternoon. By then, get all your stuff out in the yard," he said casually while reading the newspaper on the couch. I was in the kitchen doing dishes after breakfast when I accidentally dropped a plate, which shattered loudly. "Move everything out into the yard?" I asked, bewildered. I approached him for clarification. "Huh? What do you mean?" I inquired, confused. He looked at me with irritation, gripping the newspaper tightly. "You don't get it. I'll say it again, slowly for your benefit. My mother is moving into this house. Got it. It's an absurd idea, but you need to understand." My mind struggled to process the situation. He had never mentioned this before. I wished he had discussed it with me. Despite my shock, I listened without arguing. "She needs a spare room," he continued. "That's why we're using your room. If there's stuff in the way, just put it all out in the yard. Lucky you. Now you can learn housekeeping from her." I was left speechless. I knew my husband had a strong attachment to his mother, but this was crossing the line. It seemed clear that he must have already discussed living together with her when he returned yesterday. I was stunned by the sudden decision for his mother to move in. Nothing else seemed to matter anymore. "Fine, I'll put everything out," I said, barely containing my frustration. "Got it. Make sure you do it right." The moment our conversation ended, I pulled out my phone and made a call. I wasn't going to let this go without a response. My husband looked at me, puzzled. "Who are you calling?" he asked, but I ignored him. I meant what I said. I would move everything out, but I didn't want to live with a mama's boy any longer. If his mother was that important, they could be together. My anger had turned into a deep resentment. "Yes, that's right, including the land." "Yes, please," I continued, speaking to the real estate agent. My husband's voice grew louder and more impatient as he shouted, "Are you even listening? Stop making calls on your own." I continued talking, undisturbed. This house, inherited from my grandfather, was now my property, and I had the right to do whatever I wished with it. If my husband and mother-in-law were making unilateral decisions, so could I. After ending the call, I finally turned to my husband. "Stop it. You're being so noisy. Can't you see I'm on the phone? It's incredibly rude." "What kind of way is that to talk to your husband?" he snapped back, clearly annoyed. "I can't stand this any longer," I retorted. "You act so superior, but you don't even contribute properly to our living expenses. How are you any better? You make nearly $2,000 a month but only give me $250. Where is the rest of the money going? Are you having an affair or something?" His face turned red with rage. He slammed the newspaper onto the floor and grabbed me by the collar. "An affair? Don't joke about that. Why would you accuse me of that when I'm working hard every day?" Despite his anger, I remained calm. "Then why don't you contribute more to our household? If you're not doing anything wrong, there's no reason you can't. I'm not asking for all your salary, nor have I restricted your allowance." His tone softened slightly. "Well, yes, but men have their own social obligations," he said, still defensive. "I see, so you expect me to handle everything at home while you enjoy yourself outside. I'm just a convenient housekeeper to you." His grip on my collar loosened, indicating I had hit a nerve. He attempted to change the subject, but it was clear. "Anyway, my mother will be moving in today. I might increase the living expenses a bit," he said, heading back to the living room. I called after him. "That's fine, but I'm not planning to live together. If you really want to live here with your mother, I'll leave." He turned back, clearly surprised. I couldn't imagine continuing to live with him and my mother-in-law under these circumstances. Exhausted from this life, I kept my gaze cold. He noticed and approached me again. "Are you really going to leave?" "Of course. I'm leaving right away," I replied firmly. "Just wait a moment." I went to my room and returned with copies of the petition for divorce, marriage certificate, and summons from the court. I handed them to him as he slumped on the sofa. Here, look at these. Are you sure about this? Don't come back regretting it. I have no regrets, I said, my voice steady. Just read it carefully and respond to the court. My determination is firm. I just want to cut ties with this mama's boy as quickly as possible. From now on, I'll leave everything to my lawyer. Well, thank you for everything, I added, preparing to leave with my belongings. There's no alimony, right? I haven't done anything wrong, I asked, making sure. Sure, that works for me, he replied, relieved. To avoid any trouble later, let's agree in writing not to divide any assets. His face softened, clearly relieved not to have to pay alimony. We signed an agreement to forgo any alimony and not to divide any property. This formalized the end of our marriage. An hour later, just as I was about to leave with my packed belongings, my mother-in-law arrived. Where are you going with all that luggage? She asked. I'm leaving this house, I said. Please discuss the details with Tom. I wish you both happiness, I said with a smile, feeling a sense of liberation. The prospect of never seeing them again made my heart lighter. The world outside seemed brighter than ever. It had been a long time since I felt this clear-headed. First, I went to see my lawyer to discuss the next steps, then visited a real estate agent to arrange a new flat. I couldn't move in immediately, so I spent the week in a hotel. I hadn't heard from my ex-husband, and I figured he and his mother were probably settling into their new routine. That was until he called. Speak of the devil, I muttered, answering the phone. He sounded furious. What's this about an eviction notice? He shouted. Calm down. What's happened? I replied, brushing my teeth in the bathroom. I set the phone down to rinse my mouth, but his angry voice still reached me faintly. What are you doing? This isn't a joke, he snapped. I picked up the phone again and moved to the bedroom. You never change, always so angry, I said, but let it go. Never mind that. Answer me, he demanded. All right, the eviction notice. The house you and your mother are living in no longer belongs to anyone. That's probably why you received it, I explained. He seemed bewildered. You don't understand, so we'll explain again, I said firmly. I hold the rights to that house. It's now owned by the real estate company and is going to be sold. No way. That's so unfair. You didn't tell me about something this important, he yelled, shocked and enraged. You didn't share anything significant with me either. You decided to live with your mother without consulting me. It's too late now. If you don't hurry up with the move-out process, you'll be reported, I said coldly. That house was our joint property. You can't just sell it like that. It's invalid. Cancel it, he protested. Are you stupid? Did you forget we both signed an agreement that there would be no division of assets? That house was mine from the start, and I can do whatever I want with it, I said, pushing him away. His reaction confirmed he had completely forgotten the terms of the contract. His disregard for everything related to me had worn me down. I felt a wave of disappointment as I tried to end the call. Are we done? Do you understand now? This is the last time I'm discussing this, I said, preparing to hang up. Hey, wait, we have nowhere to go if we get kicked out suddenly, he exclaimed. That's not my problem. You've been stingy all this time, so you must have plenty of money. Figure it out. Why don't you rent a flat or a house? I responded coldly before ending the call. His once assertive tone faltered, and he began stumbling over his words. I don't have any money. I don't have any savings. I can't believe it. How can an adult have no savings at all? How unplanned can he be? My indignation flared. If he'd been in front of me, I might have struck him. Really hopeless, I muttered, shaking my head. I was right to divorce you. You're old enough to have savings, yet you contributed nothing to living expenses and just squandered money. There's no way I'm helping you. His pleading only steeled my resolve. Please, just a little bit, he started. Why don't you ask your mother? That's a good idea. So goodbye, mama's boy. Don't ever contact me again. I ended the call with finality and immediately blocked his number. Why should I help someone like him? If he seriously thought he'd get aid from me, he was mistaken. After everything was settled, I lay down on the soft bed of my new place, gazed at the ceiling, and proudly gave it the middle finger. 2 weeks later, I moved into my new flat. It's smaller than my old house, but it's clean and I feel quite content. My ex-husband and his mother eventually left the house. The real estate agent informed me they resisted initially but vacated when threatened with police involvement. They had underestimated me even after the divorce. I resumed my old job, and the warm welcome from my colleagues was heartening. One day, a colleague invited me to lunch and asked, "Is it okay if I ask why you got divorced?" "Well, it's complicated," I said. "Let's talk about it over drinks sometime. But I do have a question. I haven't seen Tom around lately. What happened?" "Oh, right, you don't know," my colleague said, their expression changing. "Tom officially resigned due to distress. But the truth is, he was fired for embezzling company funds. It happened around the time you left." Embezzlement? I was stunned. How much did he embezzle? "About $220,000, my colleague replied. I was so shocked I stood up, raising my voice. The other diners turned to look at us. "Keep it down," my colleague whispered. "Sorry, but that's a huge amount." "Didn't he get caught?" "The boss wanted to handle it quietly," they explained. "Tom didn't go to the police, but if he doesn't repay the money soon, he might be reported. Those are just rumors, though. The full story isn't clear." As I processed the news, I realized it wasn't entirely surprising given his character. Always concerned with appearances and squandering money on socializing, his downfall was predictable. But it was no longer my concern. I'm still young, and I want to build a new life and find happiness with someone who truly cares for me. After talking with my colleague, my resolve to move forward only strengthened.